ballers, what's going on? It's Preacher, and I've been kicking myself for the last few hours. I really have. I decided over the weekend I was going to have a monk focus, and I totally regret my actions over Mr. Pandaria in terms of how much I've played my Brewmaster. I've been researching recently, well, over the last couple of hours, on and off, as to who are the lead designers behind the monk class. Who is responsible for this? Who are you? Because you deserve a beer if you were at BlizzCon, and I wish to buy you it, because, wow, this fucking class is good. It's so good. It's ridiculous. It's leaps and bounds above any other of the tank classes. I mean, a long way, especially after I'd recently been playing the Paladin tank in order to just flesh out my involvement with the Paladin itself. And then switching back to Brewmaster, I look at it and I play it and I just think, it's as if the other tank classes were written in crayon. It's as if the ideas that went into them were just scribbled on the back of a piece of chocolate wrapper and then thrown into the game to be like, hey, yeah, we'll make a class like this. It'd be pretty funny. The Brewmaster is an epitome right now. It is absolutely everything that tanking should be. Death Knight a little ways behind. I think when I did the Mr. Pandaria tanking comparison midway through the expansion, where it was a good time to see how things were panning out, the Brewmaster was way #1. And then I left it alone. My Brewmaster is still in blues, which is just ridiculous, really, that I haven't played it a lot. And now I'm playing it more and more, and suddenly 3 hours have passed, and I'm still enjoying the crap out of it and learning more and more. The skill cap with the Brewmaster is exceptionally huge, by the way. I would even go as far as to say for any budding young tanks out there who are trying to learn their game, is to actually play a Brewmaster, even if it's not your main, just to get to grips of how good you can be with active mitigation. I have a long way to go, and I'm more than happy to invest my time in it. I would also say if I was capable of applying myself to a guild full-time, no questions asked, in Warlords of Draenor, I think I would be a Brewmaster, without question. I don't think it's even up for debate. I've just had nothing but joy from this class. So what we're looking at today, then, is, of course, what is the change of direction? The monk coming under fire. This brand new class. It's had an expansion to sort of feel its way into its proper role. What is Blizzard doing with it? Not great things, actually. I don't think so. I don't think so. As I mentioned earlier, the skill cap of the Brewmaster is really, really high. And that is not to be taken lightly. I'm not saying that because it's slightly more difficult and more demanding than the other classes. It's just that if you can use this thing correctly, you are leaps and bounds above any other player. And any other tank as well, for that matter, in terms of what you can actually achieve with your monk. Now, the problem is a lot of the stuff that allows you to really become exceptional, that really sets you apart, is stuff that nobody really uses enough. And Blizzard's kind of saying, we've got all this stuff, we want to get rid of spells, okay? They're coming into Warlords of Draenor with the mindset, we've got to get rid of some spells, we need to chop everything down, and monks have a lot of spells. There's no way of denying it. They have a lot of spells. You can't see most of them on my bars. I have them on hidden action bars. But they have so much they can be doing that they're actually chopping away at that. And the big thing that's going things like avert harm. Now, many of you who are maybe just a little bit, have tried a bit of Brewmaster or have just dabbled in it or dipped your toe in a little bit will go, Preacher, avert harm is not great, pretty shit. Wrong. Wrong. Avert harm is amazing when used correctly. It is absolutely imperative that it is used correctly in order for you to realize the absolute power that that spell holds. If you know how to actually abuse its mechanics and use it properly, you can pull off some insane things with avert harm. I'm really sad to see that go. The loss of grapple weapon, I'm not asked about that. Everybody's losing that kind of stuff, so it's not the end of the world. The loss of Clash. I've been a big hater of Clash over Mr. Pandaria. I stand by my words. Clash is just a silly spell. It's situationally very, very cool. I've thrown in some, the fights I'm actually showing you in the background are actually the more hilarious and less boring fights that I did over this evening, because they're funny and it's worth checking out. It's worth checking out. But I found myself using Clash a hell of a lot, especially on Horadon, where there's things happening that are on their own. When it comes to farming a death ball, which is the crux of being a really good tank, is creating a death ball so that things die far more efficiently, your healers have a better time, your DPS has a better time, and you overall come across as a better tank by making a solid death ball. Clash can screw that up on many occasions. Clash is situationally great, It's never going to be as good as Charge. It's never going to be as good as Heroic Leap. It's never really going to be as good as just silencing mobs and moving towards them. But it's okay. And I'm kind of sad to see it go because Roll is fine. We have Roll as the backup. But you know what? Sometimes it's just nice to drag a mob into you and make that situation better. And I love mobility on my tanks. Being part of being a great tank is the fact that you are always there first. You are picking things up really, really quickly, and mobility is a huge part of that. And abusing your mobility to the best. So to lose Clash, I'm kind of sad it wasn't redesigned to make it do something else. But the fact that it's just flat out going, I'm not too happy it's flat out going. I don't like it overwhelmingly because it is situational, as I said. But still, the loss of Clash is pretty shitty. But what are they getting? I think the good thing we can take away for those aspiring Brewmasters for Warlords of Draenor, or a tank who's looking to play a different class with maybe more interesting things to do, Paladins. What are they getting? Buffed, more than anything. Their gameplay isn't changing too much, and thank God. Thank the stars it's not changing too much because it is almost perfection. It really is almost perfection. What they are getting is buffs to guard. And again, this is basically a result of people not quite sure how to use guard properly. Note that when the earlier runs, of which there's a couple in here, you'll notice I'm very spammy with guard. I've got it off cooldown, want to use it when I get it used. And then I found myself much later when I was tanking Lei Shen and whatever, is that I was far more conservative with my guard, given its absolute power. When you use it correctly, you can just nullify, flat out nullify various mechanics with guard. But of course, people are more spammy these days. They've been trained to be spammy. They've been trained to use these kind of abilities when they're off cooldown. We use shield block whenever we have it, or shield barrier. We use our shield of the righteous whenever we have it. We don't delay death strike too long because then it gets wasted. The list goes on of things that we're supposed to press very quickly if they're on a relatively short cooldown. Guard doesn't really work that way, and guard is something that people aren't using correctly. So what Blizzard said is, hey, you know what? Let's give you more opportunities to guard, so you can actually be a bit more picky with it. Let's move it over to the shield barrier, shield block type combo, and see if people use it better. It gets better usage out of it there, because it's really high-end use isn't really happening. Isn't happening. So it's a game-altering buff by a long way. It's a game-altering change. And I really, really like it, especially the buff again to Elusive Brew. Really amazing exactly how much damage can actually actively... This is important, right? This is the only tank that was truly born in the active mitigation era. And these combinations of skills are absolutely designed for that purpose. And it really shows once you get to grips with it. On top of that, they're just getting flat out 20% health buffs. Right? They're just getting buffs and buffs and buffs. Do they need buffs is a question I've got to put out there. A good monk, and I don't like using the word overpowered, but a really good monk played by a character or a player who is au fait with exactly how the intricacies of this class work, are probably looking at this and going, do we really need buffs? If they're honest with themselves, do we really need buffs compared to what we can do? We're not overly weak in any area. There's not much we can't do, and in the several encounters over Mr. Pandaria, we've seen people going, we need a monk tank. We need a Brewmaster, because you know what? This fight is trivial if we bring in a Brewmaster. If we bring in a Brewmaster, our healers are good enough to know how Brewmasters work, what they're going to be like, then we're going to have a far easier time. I am wary of Brewmasters getting buffs, and I don't like saying that. I do not like saying I'm wary of a class getting buffs, because I honestly don't think they need it. And in fact, on my research, I did a lot of reading from what the high-end Brewmasters were saying. They don't think they need it either. They worry, and you should be worried. And I only include this because while we're in consideration of the monk for Warlords of Draenor, you have to worry a little bit about buffs. It seems arbitrary, it seems confusing, it seems hypocritical, but you should be wary of buffs, because wary of flat-out buffs such as more health, more ability to guard, often means that something more intricate and something more delicate and something more interesting gets nerfed along the way. And I don't want to see that with the Brewmaster, because they're so beautifully designed. Absolutely so beautifully designed. With things like Soul Dance and... that's my only concern. And that's a wonderful thing, right? It's my only concern is buffs. How often do I get to say that? Over the years of doing videos for you guys, how often have I said, you know the thing I'm worried about? Buffs. I'm worried about buffs ruining my class. I don't want the buffs. I'm kind of okay with where things are. Let's leave it as that, because you know what? It allows players to get better. There are a few things that have led to this, obviously. It's just people playing other tanks and going to a Brewmaster and going, ah, because you truly feel like you're spinning plates with the Brewmaster. You're doing all this micromanagement of managing your shuffle, your elusive brew. What are you going to do with your guard? What are you going to do with your expel harm? It's a wonderful, wonderful class, and I kind of wish I had something derogatory to say, so that we can already see where the balance is going to come from, if that makes sense. It's not a case of I'm searching for bad things. I'm looking for bad things in this case to see whether or not where the balance is going to come from, because if you're giving an already solidly super powerful class more, then it's a big risk that we'll lose something at the back end. And so far we're losing clash, losing grapple. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. But what will this play out like? How will this play out like? Are the other tanks going to be moving up to their level? That's what I'd love to see. I would love to see Blizzard say, Monk's pretty good. We're even going to give it a couple of buffs. But you know what? We're really going to be looking at the other tanks and making sure they move up. Not seen the evidence of that yet. Not seen the evidence of that yet. Again, something for the beta. If I can get on there and feel it out and feel happy about it. We'll see. We'll see. Brewmasters, though, you know, I genuinely wish, after making the last couple of videos, we made Mistweaver yesterday, we made Brewmaster today, I genuinely wish I could enjoy Windwalker, but I don't. But we'll talk about that tomorrow. All right, guys, I'll see you later. Be good.